Hello everybody and welcome back. As always, I am Mateo311 and this is your channel for everything VR related. Today we have another episode of the weekly VR news where I keep you up to date with everything going on in the VR industry. And normally it's a lot of game information, but surprisingly, this episode is full of hardware. That's right, the Lynx R1, if you remember that headset, is now in production. Meta showed off a couple interesting prototypes. Apple has a huge team upcoming to help standardize the future of AR and the potential metaverse. And finally, it's been confirmed that the Quest 3 will have Wi-Fi 6E. We'll go over why that's such a big deal and much more. And there are of course links and timestamps if you want to skip ahead, but before we jump in, this video is sponsored by Kiwi Design, one of my favorite sites for VR accessories. They recently released some new Quest 2 headphones that promise to pack some extra bass and increase your audio experience. They currently have my favorite Quest 2 Elite strap with battery pack, and there's plenty of other accessories like enhanced controller grips, replacement facial covers, link cables, and much more. There's a link down in the description, and don't forget to use discount code Mateo311 for 5% off and to help support this channel. Okay, so let's start this video off like normal with the check-in. That's what exactly am I up to in VR. Now I am testing one currently unreleased game. It shows potential. I can't wait to show that off to you guys. Also, you may know that I received a Catwalk, the brand new C2 Core, I believe it's called. I'm testing that. I had a couple of issues that slowed me down. I know a lot of people have content out already. I had shipping issues. I had some software issues. It was a little rough for me to put together for mat reasons, but otherwise, that content will be coming soon. And finally, Baldur's Gate 3, which is not VR related, has consumed my life. So that has to be part of the check-in because it's just like all my free time is going there, and I'm sure it'll impact how much VR I play because it's just so good. But I'm not going to waste your time on that because this is a VR video. So let's move on to this week's releases, which unfortunately there aren't many of. Unfortunately, the only game I have listed as releasing this week is the Creature Zone VR Nightfall. Luckily though, it is a free title, so you can go ahead and freely check it out if you have PCVR. This is a horror-themed experience that'll have you visiting the sites of recent tragedies, including a pizzeria where there was a murder spree and a few other locations. It also includes a physics system, which features both melee and ranged weapons, but unfortunately this game's trailer really doesn't show us much at all, and it looks like some sort of demo. If you end up trying out Nightfall and know what it's all about, please let me know more down in the comments, or if I missed any games that released this week. Now next up, we got the mixed reality trailer and release date of I Expect You to Die 3. I recently mentioned that I knew this game was on the way because Shell Games started sending out some teasers to YouTubers. I don't know why yet, but they sent me a pair of pliers with instructions that I should only be cutting the wires. Now, if you're not familiar with I Expect You to Die, you really should be because it's one of the best series on VR. It's basically a quirky set of escape rooms where you die a lot, but the production value seems to be going up and up on each new title, and the storyline is getting more and more robust. I'm absolutely pumped to jump back in for both the challenge that this game offers and the excessive amount of laughter that I know will undoubtedly come. Now our next game I'm a little bit less excited for because it's Meta trying to prove that Horizon Worlds is actually good. Super Rumble is a free-to-play first-person shooter that reminds me of Rec Room and Nerf Ultimate Championship, which is probably not the shooter you want to play. Now it does look pretty good in terms of Horizon Worlds, which I always talk down on. It's just not as good as some of these other social experiences like Rec Room, but it's also going up against now Roblox. So I don't really know why Meta's pushing this, but they did recently give it a whole bunch of updates to say, hey, listen, Horizon Worlds isn't that bad. It's still worth giving Super Rumble a try though, because they have made some major improvements. The graphics are much better. They have new gameplay options and a variety of new rewards. So if you're into that stuff, go check it out. You may really end up liking it. It's just not exactly my style, and I think there's better options out there. And speaking of not for everyone, our next title, Body of Mine, is truly interesting, but most likely won't have mainstream appeal. This game allows you to inhabit the opposite gender, to experience gender dysphoria for yourself. So to look at yourself and not physically feel like you match your outward appearance. Now it's a 15-minute experience, and that is really interesting. I definitely want to try it. You know, I'm very curious just about how well they actually present this and what type of sensation it elicits. You know, I'm a curious person by nature, but I can see how a lot of people, you know, wouldn't care about this and just want to move on. But it's something special that you could really only do in VR. Now moving on to a sad gaming topic, Echo VR is no more. This was one of the most competitive and super beloved VR games that was a bit like Rocket League meets rugby, and now it's gone. It was extremely successful, but it was still shut down. Now there's almost a bit of conspiracy to this game being shut down, and Andrew Bogsworth from Meta said it was ultimately his decision. But personally, I've always thought that Ready of Dawn never set out to make an online service game and was just a bit sick of it, wanted to work on their new projects. And they probably had a bit of heat between them and Meta, and it wasn't easy for Meta to bring a new team in and keep this game running, so rather than fighting back and forth, they decided to pull the plug. That is my personal belief, but I could be wrong here. I have a little bit of inside information here, but not enough to say concretely that's what happened. Moving on, we have the biggest team up since the Avengers, including Apple, Nvidia, Pixar, and a few more players. They're trying to standardize the creation of AR experiences to help just streamline and push forward the future of AR technologies. This is similar to how the internet was standardized with something like HTML. You really need people using the same components and the same type of protocols and the same type of file formats, etc., so that there could be a robust experience that everyone has access to. Now, this team up is being called the Alliance for USD, and I'm really happy to see people working together for something like this. If a metaverse is ever truly going to happen, we do need this, but we probably won't see anything come out of this for quite some time. But moving on to more immediate topics, we have the production of the Lynx R1. If you remember that headset, it was set to compete with the Quest 2. It featured very similar hardware, but more enhanced pass-through. At this point though, Meta has already released the Quest Pro. We have Apple's headset on the way, and even pass-through on something like the Pico Neo 4 is pretty damn good. So is it too little too late for the Lynx R1? My biggest issue is the headset is going to have inferior dated technology. So I can't imagine this being successful. And there were a couple issues that held up production. They were supposed to go into production a long time ago, but apparently the headsets that were being produced were not up to snuff. And I think they're kind of shot themselves in the foot at this point, and this headset's dead on arrival. But that's just my opinion. You guys look into this headset a little bit more. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it because this is kind of an old topic now at this point. But if you think there's a reason why this headset will be successful that I'm missing, please let me know down in the comments. I'd love to talk about it. Now, a much more exciting hardware topic is the brand new Visor HMD from the company that produces the productivity application Immerse. If you've ever wanted to work in VR and you've given it a try, you'll probably know it's just not a great option. It's either not comfortable or doesn't do as good of a job as traditional keyboard, mouse, and screen. Well, Immerse is looking to tackle that problem. They currently have the software. It's a major productivity application, and they're looking to build the hardware to match it. It'll have things like 4K displays and all-day comfort, so you can read super fine print on your screen. You can create as many monitors as you want, and you shouldn't have any discomfort because that's one of the main things the headset is designed for. Can they pull this off? We'll have to wait and see. Personally, I think both the hardware and software are not there yet, and we're probably a few years out before you can actually do a full day's work inside of a virtual environment. Now, Meta is also looking to tackle a few other VR problems, and they showed off a few prototypes to tackle each one. Now, the first is the Butterscotch, which features a varifocal lens, and is designed to create human eye resolution and also work in a similar way to the human eye. The resolution is 56 pixels per degree, which should be enough to accurately represent 20/20 vision. Additionally, the headset will focus just like your normal eyes do. If you bring an object closer to you, things in the background blur out, and the object right in front of you is crystal clear. This is great for both visual acuity and VR game performance. Similar to foveated rendering, there's no point in giving you the maximum resolution on objects you're not looking at, so we could definitely save some performance there. Now, Meta's light field prototype is designed to tackle distortion when you're in AR mode. Currently, there is an offset between where your eyes actually are and where the outside cameras on the Quest headset are. So we need to use software to adjust this and make it more accurately represent the world around you, and it's never perfect. That's why you'll see things like warping around your hands when you bring them up close, or sometimes objects near your feet may warp, and it's never a perfect representation of the world around you. Well, Light Field uses a brand new technology to help resolve that, basically by capturing light and focusing it into a single point. It's a lot more complex than that, but just know we're not using traditional cameras. Instead, they're utilizing a whole new technology. It's goofy looking and kinda looks like spider eyes, but I really don't care about that, and I'm sure they could do something to make it look nicer. But let's move on to the main event, which is Wi-Fi 6E has been confirmed in the Quest 3. Now, if you're wondering why this is a big deal, it's going to enhance your streaming PCVR experience. There's two things that hold back that experience because you're not tethered, you're not using a regular cable. So your PC has to encode the signal. It's going to send your video information because there's too much video information. It has to encode it, basically like zip it up, and then send it over through the network, through your Wi-Fi to the headset. And then your headset itself has to decode that information. And those are 3 steps where you increase latency. Now, some people, the current latency is fine as long as you have a good network and a wired PC to your router. For most people, the latency is okay. Some people can't handle it. I'm a little sensitive to latency, but it's only going to get better because Wi-Fi 6E is going to significantly cut down on that transmission latency. And also, we now have better decoding. Now, I can't control your PC. That ranges wildly, but we are increasing 2 aspects. The transmission rate, as long as your network can handle it, and the decoding should be better because the Quest 3 also has a brand new XR2 Gen 2 chip, which is supposedly twice as fast. So doing some testing with virtual desktop, and it varies from people. AirLink, some people prefer AirLink, other people prefer virtual desktop. Virtual desktops always work better for me. The main reason for that is we all have different hardware. Now, depending on the hardware you're using, you could have an H.264 or NVENC, or even if you have a brand new NVIDIA card, AV1 encoding. Now, AirLink doesn't give you an option, virtual desktop does, and that's probably why there's a discrepancy in the experience people get. Just some encoders are better for certain hardware. I still use a wired PCVR headset because, like I said, I'm pretty darn sensitive to latency. I can adjust to it, I do get used to it, but I just don't like the feel of it, and I prefer my Valve Index over using like a wireless Quest Pro or my Pico 4 or any of the options that are available to me. Now, I personally have seen latency numbers down all the way to something like 40 or 50 milliseconds, which is pretty darn good, but again, I can still feel it. Now, if we could cut that in half, get it to somewhere like 25, 20, that'll barely be noticeable. In fact, most people won't notice it at all, and that right there would be an ideal PCVR streaming experience. And I know a lot of people are interested in the Quest 3 because they want to get it for PCVR streaming. So, yep, it should be a great, cheap option. It might even be the ideal option, potentially, on how this headset works. But that right there was today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. If you're new here, consider subscribing. I recently started the more face-to-face, and the feedback on that has been great, but continue to let me know what you guys think. My opinion's going to keep coming. Thank you guys for the continued support, and I will see you guys on next time.